Let's just talk about Gapminder for a minute. This is Lecture 3 continued. So Gapminder is a great way to visualize how the economy and different indicators of well-being are related. For economists, we believe that wealth creates health. All right, so what does that mean? It means as you get richer, as economy gets richer, the more healthy an economy gets. So in other words, the more our per capita GDP increases, the greater life expectancy becomes. Because why? Because we can afford better medicine, we can afford to educate more physicians, we can afford better equipment, we can afford the ability to take time off if we're sick, etc. All these increases in wealth allow us to increase our health. Is it a perfect relationship? No. But let's take a look at Gapminder because it can give us an idea of how these things work. So here's Gapminder. And if you clicked on that chart there, you can see we have life expectancy on the vertical axis, and we have income, GDP per capita, income per person. And we can go back to the beginning of the data here, 1800, and we can see each of these dots represent a country. So up here is the United States. So if we are looking at the year 1880, we can see life expectancy is not even 40 years old, and the income per capita is about $1,900 per year, right? So everybody's kind of down in that southwest corner, and you can see that big red dot is China. So population is big, life expectancy is low, income is low. Over here you can see this little country, Solomon Islands, again, low income, low life expectancy. Up here we see Iraq with the higher income but a lower life expectancy. United Kingdom here. This little green dot, that was the US. There's Russia. So now let's start and watch what happens over time as we get richer. All right, so nothing much is happening right now. We're kind of stuck in this non-growth period. But now, once we pass 1860, things are starting to happen. You can see the US up here. Let's stop it here. 100 years later, the United States has increased life expectancy from 40 to nearly 50 years, and its income has gone from about $2,000 to nearly $7,000 per person per year. Right? China's still way back here. We have Malawi stuck back here. Who else is going? We got Switzerland here. We have Norway here with a pretty high life expectancy. Sweden over here. Right? So things are starting to move, and what's happening is you can see that the Europe and the US are making significant movements in income and in life expectancy. And here, this little red dot is Australia, and this little red dot is New Zealand. Again, let's now take a look at the next few years. Again, we're seeing that, that dip you saw was the war, World War I. Okay, again, you can see the U.S. is moving up. It went backwards during the Depression. And again, here you can see at the end of the war, World War II, you can see there was a drop during the wartime. You can see there's Russia, 18 years life expectancy during the war. But as we move up past the war, again, the United States, it's getting richer, and life expectancy is going up. Australia the same, Switzerland, Norway, China's still back here, India's still back here, Pakistan, Indonesia are back here. Mozambique is way down here with $350 per capita income per year and a 35-year-old life expectancy. Here's South Africa moving up. So now let's look at what happens. Okay, so I was born in 58, and this is kind of what it looked like in 1958. So as we started to move into the 60s, now things are changing. Now look at China. So now many of you guys are going to be born somewhere right around in here, 2000, say 2000 in this area. You can see now that China has moved up considerably, as has India. The Western world, United States is quite a bit richer, and life expectancy has gone up quite a bit. The blue area is Africa. They are lagging behind everywhere else. Afghanistan is lagging behind, again, for an assortment of reasons. And now as we get up closer to where we are now, look at China. China has increased its income and its life expectancy dramatically. So let's take a look at this thing just without me stopping it over this 200-year period. Just not a lot of movement until after World War II. And we started globalizing the world economy. We started opening up markets. And as we started opening up markets, we see life expectancy across the world going up. We see income across the world going up. We see a divide between a lot of what's happening in the West and what's happening in Asia and what's happening in Africa. You can see a big difference in incomes and a big difference in life expectancy, which is now a low of some 50 years and a high up here of nearly 85 years of life expectancy. Now you can say, well, I'm interested in something like childhood mortality, right? So then you can change this. We can go back to 1800 and we can see 5-year-olds, 0 to 5-year-olds dying per 1,000 being born. And again, here's income. And you can see it's pretty high for everyone across the planet. We're talking about a pretty high level of childhood mortality back in 1800. And if you haven't had kids yet, the importance of this will matter to you more once you do. And you can see over time again, things are moving, but fairly slowly. All right, now we're starting to get a little bit of action here. But again, now it's starting to move. Once we get past World War II, we start globalizing the economy, the global economy, and we can see how childhood mortality is falling in many places around the planet. But again, Africa, certain countries in Africa are lagging. United States is doing better, but not perfect. But you can see the movement as we start to globalize. Now, you can say, all right, what does that mean if you're interested in climate change and you're thinking about CO2 emissions? Not much data back here in the 1800s for CO2 emissions and climate change. But now we're starting to collect more data. And again, as we get richer, we begin to emit more carbon up into the atmosphere. The risks of global warming, changing climate start going up. We'll spend some time talking about climate change later in the semester. But you can see then fossil fuels have helped people get rich. They've also added a lot of CO2 emissions in the country. And the last one I want to look at here is how many babies per woman. So, back in 1800s, you can see that the average total fertility was pretty high as income goes down, or as income is low, right? And now, as we get richer, we're going to see some dramatic moves in how many kids we have per household. And things have changed, right? I mean, a lot of times it was agriculture driving things, more kids, more work, more workers. And now, as you can see, as people get richer, the number of kids we have starts declining, and you can see China instituting a policy of one child per couple. It's a very different picture in terms of opening up the marketplace to women and opening up the labor market to women, because now the number of children you have goes down considerably. The ability to join the labor force is increased, or either way, which is driving what? Having less kids spends more time to work outside the home for a wage. Things have changed a lot in the last 200 years in terms of family structure. All right, so take a look at Gapminder. Play around with it. See what, try different relationships. Have an idea of how income has changed the world over this last 200 years, or has changed the world over your lifetime, which is probably the last couple decades. So I think it's a great tool to get an idea of how the world has changed and where the world is likely to go.